For most European tourists, visiting America begins with excitement. They dream about famous cities, legendary road trips, and seeing places they've only watched on television. Eventually, the vacation comes to an end. Suitcases are packed, souvenirs are tucked away. One last look out the airplane window, and it's time to head home. But for many visitors, something unexpected happens after they leave. Days later, weeks later, sometimes even months later, they find themselves thinking about America. Not just the famous landmarks, not just the unforgettable moments, but the little things, the everyday experiences they never imagined they would actually miss. Today, we are counting down 10 things many European tourists say they missed most after leaving America. Some of these may surprise you. 10. The friendly conversations they didn't expect. Many European visitors expected to enjoy America's famous attractions. What they didn't expect was how memorable simple conversations with strangers would become. At first, it almost felt unusual. Ordering a coffee, waiting in line for lunch, stepping into an elevator. Someone would smile, ask where they were from, comment on a football jersey, or simply say, "Welcome to America." For many travelers, those moments happened again and again throughout their trip. Some conversations lasted only a few seconds. Others turned into restaurant recommendations, travel tips, or stories shared between complete strangers. Many visitors later admitted they hadn't realized how much those interactions had become part of their daily routine. Then they arrived back home. The airports felt quieter. The grocery stores felt different. Life simply returned to normal. And surprisingly, some found themselves missing those small, unexpected conversations. Not because every interaction was extraordinary, but because they made everyday life feel just a little more personal. Many European tourists said those friendly exchanges became one of the things they remembered most about America. And as meaningful as those conversations were, the next thing they missed was something they noticed almost every single day during their trip. Something so ordinary in America that most Americans hardly think about it anymore. 9. Free refills became an unexpected luxury.
I can refill. I can refill this 1,000 times.
Yeah, but you won't drink 1,000.
Sometimes the things people miss the most aren't the biggest attractions. They're the little conveniences that quietly become part of everyday life. For many European tourists, one of those surprises arrived with something as simple as ordering a drink. The first time it happened, many didn't even realize what was being offered. They finished their soda, then a server walked over with a smile. "Would you like a refill?" Some visitors thought there had been a mistake. Others assumed there would be another charge. But when they learned that another refill was included at many restaurants, they were genuinely surprised. For Americans, it's something that often feels completely normal. But for many European travelers, where free refills are much less common, it stood out as one of those small details that made dining feel different. Throughout their trip, it became something they almost expected. Long road trips, late-night dinners after exploring a city, lunch before heading to the next destination. That extra refill simply became part of the experience. Then the vacation ended. Back home, ordering a drink felt familiar again. But many visitors admitted they caught themselves instinctively wondering, "Can I get a refill?" Only to remember they weren't in America anymore. It wasn't really about getting another soda. It was about the feeling of generosity and convenience that many associated with the experience. Looking back, it became one of those surprisingly memorable details that made everyday life in America feel just a little different. And while free refills were certainly appreciated, the next thing many visitors missed had nothing to do with restaurants. It was something they experienced almost every single time they got behind the wheel. Because after driving across America, many European tourists found themselves missing the journey just as much as the destination. 8. The freedom of the American road trip. For many European tourists, renting a car in America wasn't just a way to get from one place to another. It became one of the highlights of the entire trip. Back home, a few hours of driving might take you across multiple regions, or even into another country. But in America, the journey felt completely different. The roads stretched on for miles, cutting through mountains, deserts, forests, rolling farmland, and coastlines that seemed to go on forever. Many visitors said it wasn't just the destinations they remembered. It was everything they saw along the way. A small roadside diner that wasn't on the map, a scenic overlook with breathtaking views, a tiny town they stopped in simply because they needed fuel. Those unexpected moments often became some of the best memories of the trip. The highways themselves also surprised many travelers. Wide lanes, clear signs, long stretches of open road where you could simply enjoy the drive. For many European visitors, there was a sense of freedom that felt difficult to describe until they experienced it themselves. Instead of rushing from one attraction to the next, the journey became part of the adventure. Some travelers even admitted they began looking forward to the drive just as much as the places they were visiting. Hours passed with changing landscapes outside the window, music playing through the speakers, and the feeling that another new experience was always waiting just around the next bend. Then the vacation came to an end. Back home, daily driving quickly returned to being just another routine. Traffic, short commutes, the same familiar roads. And many realized they weren't just missing America, they were missing the feeling of exploring it. The open highways, the unexpected stops, the excitement of never quite knowing what they would discover next. It was a kind of freedom that stayed with them long after they returned home. And while the road trips created unforgettable memories, the next thing many European visitors missed was something they encountered almost every single day. It wasn't a famous attraction. It wasn't a national park. It was the simple convenience of walking into one place and finding almost everything they needed under one roof. 7. The incredible variety inside American stores.
What is this? Cost? Is this normal? Guys, they put the whole car in there.
By this point in their trip, many European tourists had grown used to America doing things on a larger scale. The roads were bigger, the neighborhoods felt more spacious, the road trips seemed endless. But then they walked into what Americans simply call a grocery store. For many visitors, it was unlike anything they had experienced before. At first, it wasn't just the size that caught their attention, it was the variety. An entire aisle dedicated to breakfast cereal, dozens of flavors of potato chips, shelves filled with coffees from around the world, rows of fresh fruit, vegetables, baked goods, frozen meals, and ready-to-eat food, all under one roof. Some visitors laughed as they stood staring at products for several minutes, unsure of what to choose. Others admitted they spent far more time shopping than they had planned, not because they needed groceries, but because they wanted to explore. Then there were the stores themselves. Walmart, Target, Costco, large regional supermarkets. Many European tourists were surprised by how much could be found in one place. Groceries, pharmacies, household items, electronics, clothing, even fresh meals prepared inside the store. For Americans, it often feels completely routine. But for many visitors, it became one of those everyday experiences they couldn't stop talking about. Some even joked that visiting a Walmart became just as memorable as visiting a famous tourist attraction. Then, after returning home, grocery shopping felt different. The familiar stores they had always known suddenly seemed much smaller. The endless choices they had become used to during their trip were gone. And many realized they actually missed wandering through those enormous American stores, discovering something new around every corner. It wasn't about buying more. It was about the experience, the convenience, the variety, and the feeling that almost anything you needed could be found in one stop. For many European visitors, it became one of those surprisingly unforgettable parts of everyday life in America. But while the stores offered incredible convenience, the next thing many travelers missed wasn't something they could buy. It was the feeling of having so many incredible places to explore, all within one country. 6. They missed how one country could feel like so many different places. By the time many European tourists boarded their flight home, they had visited more than just one American city. Some had explored bustling downtown streets filled with towering skyscrapers. Others had driven through quiet countryside, crossed mountain ranges, or watched the sun set over the ocean. And that's when many realized something they hadn't fully appreciated during the trip. America never seemed to stay the same for very long. One day they were walking through the bright lights of a major city. The next, they were surrounded by forests, deserts, rolling hills, or endless beaches. Every destination felt like a completely different experience. Many visitors said it almost felt like traveling through several different countries without ever crossing an international border. Each region had its own personality. Different food, different accents, different traditions, different scenery. Even the pace of life could change dramatically from one place to the next. That constant sense of discovery became one of the most exciting parts of their journey. Every morning felt like the beginning of a new adventure. There was always another place to explore, another scenic drive to take, another hidden gem waiting just a few hours away. Then they returned home. Life quickly settled back into its familiar rhythm, and many found themselves missing that feeling of endless possibility. Not because home wasn't beautiful, but because America had shown them just how much variety one country could offer. It wasn't simply about famous landmarks. It was about waking up each day with the excitement that something completely different was waiting around the next corner. For many European visitors, that feeling stayed with them long after the vacation ended. And while the incredible variety of America left a lasting impression, the next thing they missed was something they experienced almost every single day. It wasn't a destination. It wasn't an attraction. It was the simple convenience that made everyday life feel surprisingly easy.
5. They missed how convenient everyday life felt.
Really don't like about Europe. You gotta pay for the restroom.
By now, many European tourists had already fallen in love with America's landscapes, road trips, and unforgettable experiences. But when they looked back on their trip, it wasn't always the famous places they missed the most. Sometimes it was how easy everyday life seemed to feel. Little conveniences started adding up without them even realizing it. Need groceries? One stop could often take care of almost everything. Hungry late at night? In many cities, restaurants and stores were still open. Forgot something while traveling? Finding what they needed often took only a few minutes. Individually, none of those moments seemed especially important, but together, they made daily life feel remarkably convenient. Many visitors said they didn't truly appreciate it until they returned home. Simple errands suddenly took longer. Some stores closed earlier than they had become used to. The routines they had barely noticed during their vacation were no longer there.
And that's when many realized they actually missed the convenience they had experienced in America. It wasn't about luxury. It wasn't about spending more money. It was about having options. The freedom to choose when to shop. The ability to find what they needed without visiting several different places. The feeling that everyday tasks fit naturally into the day instead of interrupting it. For many European tourists, those small conveniences quietly became one of the most memorable parts of their trip. Not because they came to America looking for convenience, but because they hadn't expected to miss it once they left. And while everyday life was surprisingly easy, the next thing many visitors missed wasn't about shopping or running errands. It was something that made them feel welcome almost everywhere they went. Something they remembered long after the vacation was over.
4. They missed the energy that seemed to be everywhere. As the trip went on, many European visitors began to notice something they hadn't expected. There always seemed to be something happening. On one street, live music filled the air. A few blocks away, people gathered for a local festival. Sports bars buzzed with excitement before the big game. Parks were filled with families enjoying the afternoon. Even on an ordinary weekday, many cities felt alive with activity. For many tourists, that energy became contagious. Simple evenings often turned into unforgettable memories. A quick walk after dinner became an opportunity to discover a street performer. A stop for coffee turned into a conversation with locals. A visit to a downtown area became hours of exploring shops, restaurants, and attractions they hadn't planned to see. Many visitors said they loved that feeling. No matter where they traveled, it always seemed like another experience was waiting just around the corner. Whether it was a sporting event, a farmer's market, a concert, or simply people enjoying a warm evening outdoors, there was a sense that life was happening all around them. Then they returned home. The excitement of the vacation slowly faded.
Daily routines returned. The familiar streets looked the same as they always had, and many found themselves missing that constant feeling of possibility they had experienced during their time in America. It wasn't about one city or one event. It was the atmosphere, the excitement, the feeling that every day offered another opportunity to discover something new. For many European tourists, that energy became one of the most unexpected things they missed after leaving America. But while the atmosphere made every day exciting, the next thing many visitors missed was much more personal. Because it wasn't about the places they visited, it was about the people they met along the way.
3. They missed the people more than they ever expected. When many European tourists first planned their trip to America, they expected to remember the places, the famous skylines, the national parks, the unforgettable road trips. But after they returned home, many realized something unexpected. Some of their favorite memories weren't about places at all. They were about people. It started with the little moments. A waiter recommending a local restaurant, a cashier asking where they were visiting from, someone at a sporting event striking up a conversation, neighbors waving from their front porch, complete strangers wishing them a great vacation. None of those interactions lasted very long, but together they helped shape the entire experience. Many visitors said they felt genuinely welcomed during their time in America. People were often curious about where they came from. They shared travel tips, recommended hidden gems, asked about life back in Europe. Sometimes those conversations lasted only a minute. Other times, they turned into memories that stayed with them long after the trip had ended. When the vacation was over, many travelers expected to miss the scenery. Instead, some found themselves thinking about the people they had met along the way. The conversations, the smiles, the simple moments of kindness that made them feel at home in a country thousands of miles away. It reminded many visitors that while famous attractions create great photos, it's often the people who make a destination truly unforgettable. For many European tourists, those human connections became one of the biggest reasons they hoped to return someday. But while the people left a lasting impression, the next thing they missed was something even bigger. It was the feeling that almost anything was possible, and that every single day offered a new adventure waiting to be discovered.
2. They missed the feeling that anything was possible. As the days passed, many European tourists found themselves doing something they hadn't planned. Changing their plans. A road sign pointed toward a national park. They decided to take the exit. Someone recommended a small town nearby. They added another stop to the trip. A local suggested watching the sunset from a place that wasn't in any travel guide. So they went. Again and again, some of the best memories came from moments that were never part of the original itinerary. There was a feeling that adventure could begin almost anywhere. One conversation, one unexpected turn, one decision to keep driving just a little farther. And suddenly, they were experiencing something they would never forget. Many visitors said that was one of the things they loved most about America. The country felt full of possibilities. There was always another city to explore, another scenic highway waiting to be driven, another restaurant recommended by a local, another hidden gem that wasn't listed in the guidebooks. Every day seemed to offer another opportunity to discover something new. Then they flew home. The vacation ended. Life slowly returned to normal. The excitement of exploring unfamiliar places was replaced by familiar routines. And that's when many realized what they missed most. It wasn't just America itself. It was the feeling America had given them. The excitement of waking up each morning knowing the day could take them somewhere completely unexpected. That sense of possibility stayed with many travelers long after they unpacked their suitcases. It reminded them that some of the greatest adventures aren't always carefully planned. Sometimes,
they're simply waiting for you to say yes. And while that feeling left an unforgettable impression, there was still one thing many European tourists missed even more. It wasn't a place. It wasn't a meal. It wasn't even a specific experience. It was something much deeper. The realization that America had changed the way they saw the country, and perhaps even the way they saw travel itself.
They missed the way America made them feel. When many European tourists first booked their trip to America, they expected to come home with photographs, souvenirs, stories to tell friends and family, and of course, a few unforgettable memories. What they didn't expect was to leave feeling nostalgic for a place they had only known for a short time. By the end of the journey, something had changed. The highways they had driven, the cities they had explored, the conversations with strangers, the late-night diners, the incredible landscapes, the sporting events, the everyday moments that had once seemed ordinary, had quietly become memories they couldn't stop thinking about. After returning home, many travelers admitted they found themselves doing something they never expected. Looking at old photos, watching videos from their trip, talking about America long after the vacation had ended. Some even started planning another visit before they had fully unpacked. Not because America was perfect. Every country has its own strengths, challenges, and unique way of life. But because the experience had been so different from what they had imagined. Many visitors arrived expecting stereotypes. They left with personal experiences. And those experiences completely changed the way they viewed the country. For some, America became more than just another destination on a travel list. It became a place filled with unforgettable moments, unexpected friendships, and everyday experiences they never imagined they would miss. Perhaps that's why so many European tourists say the hardest part wasn't saying goodbye to the famous landmarks. It was saying goodbye to the feeling they had while they were there. A feeling of excitement, curiosity, freedom, and the belief that tomorrow might bring another unforgettable adventure. Maybe that's the greatest souvenir America gives its visitors. Not something they can pack into a suitcase, but a collection of memories they carry with them long after the journey ends. And for many, that's exactly why they can't wait to come back.
What about you? If you've ever visited America, what was the one thing you missed most after returning home? Or if you're planning your first trip, which of today's 10 reasons surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another episode. Here at World Views America, we explore how people from around the world experience life in the United States, one story at a time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.